Hello, this is Brett, and I'm here with Sandy. How you doing, Sandy?
Very well, thanks. How are you, Brett?
Yeah, good, good. We're coming to the end of June, so I don't know
Wow,
where the
that's
month has
hard
gone.
to believe. I don't know either.
Yeah,
The whole
yeah,
year, in fact, so far.
yeah. I know we've had our summer, so that's
Oh,
come and gone.
it's
Yeah, we
done
had
in.
done and dusted. Yeah, we had 2 weeks of nice weather, and it's back to cold again, and rain. So hopefully it'll come back, but
Mm.
we'll
Yeah, I'm
see.
sure it will.
So, yeah, I think we've had quite a successful month talking, about Social Squared and the changes that we've pushed out on that one. Some, I guess, typical sort of teething issues. We had a couple of those when we pushed the product out. Things that we didn't document as well as maybe we should have done around
Mhm.
things like the API permissions
Mhm.
and things like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, we got there. It's working well now, and it's something that, yeah, if you're listening to this and you've updated Social Squared, make sure that you've got all the API permissions granted to Social
Mhm.
Squared. It kind of got missed in our testing because we already had that permission granted
Right,
a while back. So
right. And that
apologies for
has
that.
to do with being, yeah, that has to do with being able to show the user presence indicator and the profile cards and so on that are coming from Microsoft Graph.
Yeah, so that needs a permission for that. But anyway, it's
Mhm.
sorted now, so
Yes.
that's all fantastic. Go and enjoy Social Squared. And yeah, we've in a couple of days' time, we've got the Social Squared webinar. So that will have been recorded by the time you're watching this. But anyway, if you get a chance and didn't get a chance to watch the live webinar, assuming nothing happened between now and then, and it does actually take place or did take place, so you'll be able
Yeah,
to watch the
what's the
recording.
verb form for it will have had happened?
Exactly. So in a couple of days' time from now, I'll be doing the webinar. So yeah, that'll be 4 or 5 days ago if you're watching this that took
Right,
place. But so the recording will be on our website, so you can go and have a look at
right.
that on lightningtools.com, and then click onto webinars at the top, and you'll see the recording, and you'll be able to watch that back.
And it
So
will have been a great webinar.
it will have been a great webinar. It will have had great attendance and everything else. So we're on to the Lightning Conductor this month, and
Mhm.
I think
For July.
there's
Mhm.
yeah for July, and there's one major change that we've been working on. So it's been taking place over a couple of months worth of development. It's coming towards the end of testing and all that fun documentation stage and so on, and we'll
Mhm.
make sure we check the API requirements and all that sort of stuff to make sure that you know which permissions to grant. But yeah, I think there's one particular feature that we're releasing that I think we really need to talk about, and next week we'll demo it.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think there's a lot to discuss about it in this episode. So first of all, I mean to just sort of highlight what's new, and then we can talk about the background of coming to that decision. First of all, with inside the Lightning Conductor, you have the ability to aggregate content. So just a reminder of what the Lightning Conductor is: it's a content aggregation tool, and if we just spin back to around about 2007, it was filling a big need, and that big need was the ability to aggregate SharePoint lists across different site collections. That's basically what the tool did, and it grew and grew in terms of being able to make that content look nice, so and to make it useful. So not only display lists from multiple different sites and multiple different site collections, but also to build in things like additional formatting and calculated columns, grouping, and all that sort of thing. So that's really what the product did. And then as time went on, we of course iterated through every version of SharePoint on premises. There was an add-in. So we had a Lightning Conductor add-in, which we had to get our thinking caps on back then, because the product was known for doing a cross-site collection rollup, and guess what? We couldn't do a cross-site collection rollup because the add-in model for SharePoint didn't allow it in Microsoft 365. So we came up with the idea of using search. So in the Lightning Connector add-in, you could use search, or you could use the object model in order to aggregate your content. So you would use the object model if you wanted to aggregate content within the site collection, and that was nice and easy to do. And then you would use search if you wanted to aggregate content beyond the site collections, and that was a little bit more complex because you had to deal with managed properties and crawls and all that sort of stuff. And then fortunately Microsoft came up with the SharePoint framework, and that replaced the add-in model. So we had a
we
nice
kind of blasted off from there. I would have to
yeah,
say.
yeah, it's a fantastic tool. So the Lightning Conductor now with the object model can aggregate from different sites and different site collections, and it now does hubs and associated sites, and it still has search, so you can use that if you want to, but you don't have to use it to aggregate across site collections anymore. So you can actually just use that if you want to see, optimal performance, because with the object model, it's having to iterate through those items. So the search displays the content there and then, but of course there's a time lag because it's cached information. So, but you do get a performance gain. So it's still there for that reason. And we also, I guess probably about a year ago now, introduced the Microsoft Graph.
Yeah. I
As
bet it's been longer ago. Yeah.
maybe.
It feels like we skipped a year, so.
Yeah, because of the whole pandemic and everything. Yeah, so
Right.
so we have the Microsoft Graph option, which allows you to not just aggregate SharePoint lists, more SharePoint content using search, but to also get to things like Microsoft Planner content, or events, or Microsoft To Do,
OneDrive
OneDrive.
files. I like that.
Yeah,
Mm.
anything you can get at really from the Microsoft Graph, you could use the Lightning Conductor to get at that content and report on it as well. So you could go through and add your conditional formatting and all that sort of thing on there. And the other nice thing about the SPFX, as a side note, it's obviously modern, it's responsive, it works in Teams as well as SharePoint and so on. So really, that's kind of your history lesson to bring it up to speed as to where we're at.
Well, and then somewhere in there, I guess it would have been after we added the graph or before. I forget. That we added the ability to connect Lightning conductors together. So then that's really powerful, especially I think with the graph content, because then you can aggregate planner plans in one Lightning conductor, connect that to planner tasks in another Lightning conductor, and filter and sort and group.
Yeah, and actually that feature is there, but it was kind of somewhat a little bit short-lived, because the Lightning Conductor also allows you to have this grid view of displaying your content, so you can pick and choose the columns that you want to see. You don't have to write any JSON or anything like that in order to do it. You just literally go through and configure your properties to choose what columns you want to show, and that's where you add the conditional formatting and all that sort of thing. So yeah, you would in that case connect to planner plans and show the plans, and then you would show planner tasks in another instance of the Lightning Conductor, connect the two together, so then you could click on a plan and see the related tasks. But yeah, our JSON Wiz built also a JSON view, so the Lightning Conductor does actually allow you to add JSON. You can write your own JSON if you want to, or you can use our JSON. So we've built a bunch of JSON views for sort of showing documents in tiles. You can have a calendar view. There's a events view. There's all sorts of views that you can display inside the Lightning Conductor, and one of them actually combines planner plans and planner tasks in the same view. So yeah, that's really powerful. You can go ahead and use that one, and you're not having to actually work with the connections. But yeah, it's a nice little feature, that one. So it occurred to us towards the end of last year that there's a bunch of people that are now using Microsoft 365, mostly because of the pandemic and so on. They've started using Microsoft Teams or whatever, and then they've gone, oh look, we've got this SharePoint thing, and they have no idea what a site collection is or a site, because you don't create them anymore. You just create new sites, and when
or
you
new
create
teams.
yeah, you might create a new team, you might create a new site or whatever, and behind the scenes it's creating a Microsoft 365 group. So do you now still go looking to aggregate content by selecting different site collections? Maybe, but maybe not as well. So we've introduced another module or way of aggregating your content that is based on selecting the Microsoft 365 groups that you want to aggregate from. So I'll shut up for a minute, and Sandy, why don't you tell us a little bit about what a Microsoft 365 group is?
Oh, well, sure. Yeah, so everything in Microsoft 365, or a lot of things, are based around the Microsoft 365 groups. And so kind of depending on where you create them from, and I don't know all of that off by heart, different parts are created or not. But Microsoft 365 group can include a SharePoint site collection. I think that's always true. Um, Probably a Teams team, a planner plan, a Yammer group it can include. Trying to think if I feel like there's something else that can be in a Microsoft 365 group. But anyway, so all of those things, and
Well, you also get an
they
email, and so
Oh, right.
it
Yes. Yes. It has
intelligent
its
as
own
well, isn't
email
it?
address.
Yep.
Right. 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 And yeah, and group events. So there's a group calendar that's included as well. So lots of different parts that are part of the Microsoft 365 group and that are outside of SharePoint too. So not only the SharePoint site collection. And and in a lot of cases, that's then how your permissions are going to work as well. So people who you make members of that Microsoft 365 group are going to have access to all of those different parts that get created when you create the Microsoft 365 group. And so that also will come into play in the Lightning Conductor too, because everything you see is security trimmed. So if you're saying you want to display things from a certain Microsoft 365 group, which will have kind of the more friendly name, not just like a URL or something, then that's who will have be able to see that content in the Lightning Conductor.
Perfect. So yeah, I mean, to sort of put that into perspective of a business, I guess you might want to, for example, you may have created a sales Microsoft 365 group, and that has a sales SharePoint site, and your sales team collaborating and engaging with each other through Teams and through the shared calendar and that type of thing. But then you may also have so some other things that are sort of sales related. So it might be a marketing type group. So you could have a marketing 365 group and maybe regionalized sales groups and things like that.
Mhm.
So this is where you could now go through and select your content, as opposed to knowing, what these site collections are called and navigating to the content that way. I mean, you can still do that, absolutely, to get at the SharePoint content, but there's other content as well now. So again, you could have got to the same end result by using the new Microsoft Graph Rollup engine and selecting that and saying, I want to look at planner, and it's these particular plans that I'm interested in. But you will also see other plans that may involve you. If you're involved in perhaps other groups that are not just sales related. So it
Mhm.
could be that you don't want that content being displayed. So this whole purpose
And
is,
I would say the graph rollup provider in the Lightning Conductor can sometimes be a little complex to use or to sort out what query exactly you want to create.
yeah, yeah, exactly. We've got those quick configurations, which makes it really
Hmm.
simple. But yeah, if you're building your own custom one, it can be a bit more complex. Yeah, certainly. But yeah, the purpose of this is to say, really, well, I'm after this sales content that might be OneDrive items, or it might be events that are going on inside the sales department that's spanning multiple Microsoft 365 groups. So yeah, I'll go into the Lightning Conductor and I'll choose those groups that are sales related. And there might be 4 or 5 different Microsoft 365 groups or more that you go through and select. And then the next question is, well, what type of entity do you want to report across? So it
Mm.
could be your planner, or it could be OneDrive, or whatever. And then the next step would be to select those columns that you want to display again, and then refine your view using some of that conditional formatting, or displaying people cards on some of the people type columns and that type of idea. So yeah, I mean, that's really the sort of purpose of that new feature, is to give you another way of approaching the content, another way of querying the content that makes more sense now in this sort of modern Microsoft 365 world.
Mhm.
So
I can imagine it might be useful in that case to maybe create different views within a single Lightning Conductor web part, that one view for, or views for different parts for different of the entities, so to speak. So you would have the one web part that would be like all of your sales groups that you've selected same groups, but then you might have a different, a view for SharePoint content, a view for Planner content, and so on. Would that
Yeah.
be accurate?
Yeah, absolutely right. So yeah, you could build those multiple views perfectly fine. And
It's
yeah,
super easy to just switch back and forth between the views for people to
yeah,
use.
yeah. And that's always better than having multiple instances, because it's
Mm.
taking up less real estate of that page. You've just got that one section, but you can choose the different reports and load those. And as you mentioned earlier, you can join multiple instances together. So if you wanted to drill down into that content, then that's also possible. And another scenario for that is you can actually show group members as well. So if you
Right.
wanted to query the group members, you could have another instance of the Lightning Conductor that may show other content related to those users. So go through and daisy chain them that way. So, and they can also
Yeah.
consume connect from things like the Lightning Filter web part, which helps build a dashboard. So
Yeah, right.
So I think, next week we'll dive into it. We'll
Okay,
open
cool.
it in and show some of this, but hopefully that gives a bit of background as to why we've built in this this new Rollup engine. And
Yeah.
of course, the Lightning Conductor recipe effects, it does work for SharePoint on-prem. This is a feature that's not going to be available for SharePoint on-prem because you don't have Microsoft
Right.
365 groups. But if you are on SharePoint Online, then you can certainly use that functionality, or even just Teams. If you're adding into Teams, and you can also build that same.
Yeah,
So,
that would be a really good addition, actually. Yeah, if you have it in your Teams team, but displaying other content from that same Microsoft 365 group.
yeah, absolutely, or other groups.
Right.
So,
Yes.
yeah, correct. Wonderful.
Awesome.
Well, I think next week we'll do that. And
Okay.
in the meantime, if you've got any questions over this, and reach out to us. So
Yeah.
you can reach out to us on sales@lightningtools.com. We'll be happy to just discuss the new features or arrange a demonstration as well. So
Yeah. Yeah. Or feel free to leave a comment on this video as well.
sounds good.
All
Well,
right.
good to see you
Thanks a
again,
lot.
Sandy, and speak
Yep.
to you soon.
Same. All right. Bye.
Bye.